so-called allegations. Well, I came to Imo State as the governor January 15th, 2020. From 2020 January till date, there is no month we did not pay salary before 30th. But the situation is that before this time, I thought that the labor union is a democratic entity that allows the opinion of people. I don't pay federal civil servants. I only pay Imo State civil servants. So-called allegations. Well, I came to Imo State as the governor January 15th, 2020. From 2020 January till date, there is no month we did not pay salary before 30th. But the situation is that before this time, I thought that the labor union is a democratic entity that allows the opinion of people. I don't pay federal civil servants. I only pay Imo State civil servants. And I challenge any Imo State civil servant to come up to say that between 2020 January 15th till date, that he did not receive salary in any of the months. What has happened is this ugly coincidence that the national president of Nigerian Labour Congress is from Imo State and has not been able to demarcate the difference between being a national leader of an organization and then an interested party in local politics. But God will manage the situation. Thank you. Well, I still repeat, there is no worker in Imo State. Recall that I came in January 2020. By March, I started paying minimum wage of 30,000 that has been lying there that previous leadership didn't pay. By December, I paid 13th month, the first time in the history of Imo Civil Service. And I've maintained continuously this 13th month payment as an incentive. I automated the payment systems. Salaries are now received in an automated manner in Imo State for the first time. I brought new innovations. I reformed the civil service. No wonder that the civil service, entire National Labour Congress of Imo State chapter, endorsed me, and I'm the only candidate that's supporting in the election. The pensioners, the Nigerian Union of Pensioners, endorsed me. I'm the only one. From 2007 to 2020, no civil servant in Imo State received gratuity. It's only my government that have now floated a bond to pay outstanding gratuities to civil servants. So I understand the sensitivity of this event, but I want you people to be very careful because there's an attempt to mix up partisan politics or an attempt to blackmail my government. But I can tell you that my people are already aware. That was why the Nigerian Labour Congress, Imo State chapter, addressed a world press conference that what their national leadership is saying is not correct and that they are not going to do any strike or protest. And in the process, they decided to dissolve them, to put in a caretaker. Of course, I'm the chief security officer and I have a responsibility to intervene. I encourage the national leadership not to dissolve a management team that their tenure has not expired. And that was what they did. I don't interfere with labor matters, but I have convinced my workers in Imo State to believe in me. And that trust is what opposition parties are trying to fight. But I can assure you that Imo people already have taken their decision. 11th November is by the corner. Come and observe the election. Thank you. To men of the press, as the chairman just said, we are here this afternoon to receive officially our flag, which is a symbol of authority and mandate, to represent our party in the November 11th gubernatorial elections. The so-called allegations.
Right, as a day 2 of the National Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress strike continues to bite hard, we want to welcome you on today's edition of our show. And as always, we are glad you could join us. This is Political Spectrum coming to you live from Uyo, the state's capital. And I remain your host, Onumese Ehinoma Olusegun. Before we delve into all the implications of the strike action and what led to it, let us first of all observe President Tinubu's administration's calendar as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is now exactly 5 months and 21 days as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. All right, NLC strikes, its implications. How has it been observed? Is the compliance widespread? What are the implications, the far-reaching implications of the current NLC strike, and what are people saying about it? All these and more will be thrown open for our conversations today. But before then, still on the strike, let us begin to take some criticisms or some comments from some of notable names. So Shomole criticizes the NLC strike. That's no longer news. In a meeting with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa in Abuja, former chairman of the APC, Adams Oshomole, criticized the strike action being implemented by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. He expressed that their focus should have been on state governments that are not currently paying the national minimum wage of 30,000. Oshomole insinuated that the strike by Joe Ajaro's led leadership was misplaced and emphasized that as labor leaders, they should prioritize their primary responsibility over holding political opinions that may impede their duties. Now, addressing analysts who predicted doom for the ruling APC in Imo, Oshomole described them as mostly armchair critics and also mentioned his support for workers, stating, and I quote, "I remain labor in heart and labor in views and labor in my aspirations." Oshomole's remarks comes amidst a nationwide industrial action by the organized labor, which has partially paralyzed social and economic activities. He emphasized the importance of addressing issues like non-payment of 30,000 by some states and urged the NLC to recognize the plight of workers in state and local governments. He expressed his disappointment that the current strike was not focused on their issues and cautioned against mixing political opinions with responsibilities. He stressed the need for prioritizing the multitude of issues confronting workers rather than having political undertone. The video is an amateur video, but let's hear what Senator Comrade Adams Oshomole has to say.
The federal government had granted 35,000 naira increase, right? And those discussions were supposed to be for and on behalf of not only the federal government, but on behalf of all workers in Nigeria, including those employed by local governments and state governments. And the additional revenue accruing from the withdrawal of subsidy trickles out to the states and to the local governments. Now, I would wish that somebody at the NSC recognize that the hunger in the stomach of federal employees is not any worse than the hunger in the stomach of those state employees, not those local government employees. If these are the issues on the table, even as a senator, I will publicly support any action against any government that think that we should lament away our hunger and why the people do what they do. Unfortunately, this strike is not about those issues. And I think we have to be careful not to mix our political opinion with our responsibilities, because the issues confronting workers are so many that they should become the priority. I want labor to, we cannot be apolitical, because politics is about the people. And I have argued when I was in NLC that nobody has a right to be partisan, much more than those who turn the wheel of our industrial progress. But it's saying that we must recognize that however hard you try, when it comes to politics, people are going to have different reasons for supporting different candidates. And you have to be careful not to be seen to be doing the bidding of a particular candidate or a particular political party.
All right, so while we continue to observe the issues of the NLC strike, let us quickly drift a bit. You know, there were some very weighty statements some few hours ago that needed to be brought to the fore. And that is the current National Security Advisor suddenly criticizing the immediate past regime. Buhari's regime looted Nigeria into bankruptcy. If you look at his statement, it was obvious he was making some kind of defense for the current administration. And this statement is credited to Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor. He knocked the immediate past administration of Muhammadu Buhari, saying that it left Nigeria bankrupt before relinquishing power. Now, Mr. Ribadu stated this in Abuja at the Chief of Defense Intelligence Annual Conference 2023 with the theme, Leveraging Defense Diplomacy and Effective Regional Collaboration for Enhanced National Security. Now, the former chairman of the EFCC, however, assured that the financial mess wouldn't affect budgetary allocations as everything will be done to enhance robust and viable defense management and apparatus in the country. In attendance at the conference were the Ministers of Defense Abubakar Badaru, Minister of State Bello Matawale, Permanent Secretary in the Defense Ministry Ibrahim Kana, the Chief of Defense Staff and other service chiefs. The NSA's comments about the current administration inheriting a country in financial distress comes after President Tinubu lavished over $500,000 on a 5-day stay in a luxury hotel in New York in September. The president is also presently pushing to spend $13.5 billion to renovate his official residence in Abuja and in Lagos, where he already has a mansion and would rarely use it as a president. So a lot of people are saying, why are these comments coming at this particular time when the person you are even trying to defend by his actions may also be heating up the entire space when it comes to making it easier to administer the resources for the Federal Republic. Now, moving away from that and back into the issues around the current strike actions, disobedience of court, civil society organizations and lawyers call for labor leaders' arrest. They're talking about the national president of the NLC and the national president of the TUC. Now, lawyers and civil society organizations have called for the arrest of labor leaders for disobeying a court order restraining them from embarking on an ongoing nationwide strike. The strike called by the NLC and the TUC enters into its second day today. Now, the workers are protesting last week's brutalization of the NLC president, Mr. Joe Ajero in Imo, and the failure of the federal government to meet some of their demands arising from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's removal of fuel subsidy. Now, the president of the Nigerian Industrial Court, Justice Benedict Kanyip, had restrained the labor union and their affiliates from embarking on strike. However, while declaring the strike, Mr. Ajero said the industrial action was in protest against the persistence and egregious violations of the rights and privileges of workers in Imo State by the state government. But to the civil society organizations, the unions and the leaders should always ensure that they obey the law despite provocation and misgovernance. The civil society organizations who spoke are 1. Transparency International, a notable civil society organization, the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, and the Transition Monitoring Group, TMG. Now, speaking through their leaders, Awal Musa Rafsanjani, the CSO, said, even though the last result of any industrial dispute was strike, but that in the cases where there are court issues, it should be obeyed. The question that now comes to the mind is, restraining orders, are they really verdicts? I'm not a lawyer, you be the judge. We're running a constitutional democracy, and while still speaking, we're running a constitutional democracy even though we are dealing with people who don't respect the Constitution. Now, NLC and TUC should not be carried away by the lack of obedience to court orders by politicians. They should not play to the antics of people in authority. We must always ensure that we obey the court order. CSOs and the union leaders should not fail to obey court orders. The NLC-TUC should not create a room where court judgments are not obeyed. We should not be tempted into carrying out actions that will discredit the union, Rafsanjani had said. Now, adding that even though the government does not show genuine concern on the plight of the workers and the hardships in the land, unions should not play into their hands. Let me also quote him again. Let us not follow these restless lawbreakers. There is a genuine cause, and if there is a court order, let's comply with it. The Patriotism Awareness Forum also pointed out that's another civil society organization, that Inspector General of Police had launched an investigation into the alleged attack on Ajero in Owerri on the 1st of November. The group wondered why the NLC and TUC deliberately disregarded the order of the court and embarked on a politically motivated strike just to satiate their ego and pushed their unpopular political interest. Now, the CSO lamented that the NLC, under the leadership of Joe Ajero, had degenerated into a petty, trivial, and unserious political group whose resort to illegality and lawlessness portends an impending ruination of labor unions for which it must take the blame for. Now, let's hear what the senior lawyers are saying. They said they have also called for the arrest of labor leaders in the country for going ahead with the planned industrial action in defiance of a valid court order. They also added that no one is above the law. They called on the federal government to commence contempt proceedings against them. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Abdul Balogun, said Nigeria is a country governed by law and should not be allowed to degenerate into a lawless nation. He says, and I quote, "The Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice knows what to do with those who flagrantly flouted a lawful court order. Disobedience to lawful orders of court is a serious offense, and I expected that the labor leaders should be made an example for those who deliberately disobey court orders, including the government and its agencies." A lot have been said by senior lawyers, a lot have been said by civil society organizations. Almost everybody we've seen have condemned this strike action that has gone on. This is the second day, and the inconveniences that it may be bringing to the average Nigerian. Now, here's a response from the labor union saying court orders is an affront on workers' rights. That statement is credited to the labor union leaders. Now, meanwhile, the former NLC General Secretary, Dr. Peter Ozo-Esson, said despite the court order, labor movement remains a tool to save Nigeria from assault on people's rights. Now, the former labor leader lamented that the industrial court had become a lackey of the executive arm of government. He said the right of a worker to strike is what distinguishes him or her from a slave. The degree to which the industrial court of late has become a willing tool of the executive arm of government, even exculpating the fundamental human rights of citizens and workers to protest government policy, is a huge affront on the prospect for democratic development in our country. Now, he says, and I quote, "It is therefore a civic duty of all citizens to resist this unfortunate trend. Yes, I support the strike. In my days of ASU activism and leadership, we had cause to restrict such court orders," he said. Now, we also understand that electricity workers have joined the strike action. The National Union of Electricity Employees has directed its members to commence the mobilization to ensure compliance with the directive of the Nigerian labor unions to embark on the nationwide strike that has gone into day 2. Now, a notice signed by Dominic Igwebike, acting General Secretary of the union, urged the withdrawal of services nationwide from early hours of yesterday. And now, to this effect, all national, state, and chapter executives are requested to start mobilizing members in total compliance with these directives. Now, however, the Transmission Company of Nigeria had refuted reports that there will be no national blackout. due to the ongoing protest by the organized unions. Now, in a statement, head of the public affairs at the TCN, that's the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Ndidimba, said, and I quote, "We hereby note that the nation's grid is intact and supplying bulk electricity to distribution load centers nationwide. As of when issuing this statement, the TCN National Control Center Osogbo, which controls the bulk of the power transmission nationwide, was actively operational." And continuing, and I'm quoting them, "We should appreciate that reports are made with a sense of responsibility, not just to cause panic, but we should properly always report, according to them, that the grid are intact. Though they may be embarking on this on the strike, the grids are intact." Now, as at day 2 today, yesterday there were feedback that Labour blocks National Assembly entrances and locks out staff. Now, the organized Labour, under the auspices of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASAN, yesterday blocked all entrances to the National Assembly complex in Abuja in compliance with the strike embarked on by the NLC. Now, PASAN officials enforcing the industrial action locked both the main and the annex gates of the National Assembly, preventing staff from accessing their offices. Lawmakers and management staff were forced to use an alternative route as they passed the adjoining gates between the National Assembly complex and the presidential villa to enter the premises. Workers who turned up for work but were turned back faulted the officials of the union for not informing them earlier that they were going to join the strike, only for them to be told so on arrival at the complex. Now, today, like I said, is day 2. Day 1, there were a lot of audits on whether there were compliance to the industrial strike action yesterday. And in some places, there were very, very strict compliance. Let's look at some of them. In Sokoto, there were full compliance by civil servants to the strike directive. The level of compliance in the state was monitored. There were reports that banks within the metropolis also closed their doors to customers. Now, in Kano State, the Audu Bako Secretariat was placed under lock by the unionists as early as 7 a.m. with green leaves hanging on the gate, signifying the strike action within the premises of Audu Bako Secretariat, and not only the government premises and parastatals, but also some courts, including the Court of Appeal, Kano Division, and the Kano State House of Assembly. Students were turned back by striking teachers and many other activities to show that they were in solidarity with the labor union movement, and they observed the strike. Now, in Kwara State, all government offices, including ministries and agencies, were completely shut yesterday as workers in the state stayed away from their places of work as directed by the NLC. All public schools were also shut down as both teachers and students did not come to school. However, some commercial banks in Ilorin, the state capital, opened for operations and nobody disturbed them. The state chairman of the NLC, Comrade Murtala Olayinka, expressed satisfaction with the civil servants' level of compliance with the NLC directive. ASU chairperson Alex Ekweme, Federal University Ndufu Alike branch, Ebonyi State, Comrade Louis Omeni yesterday said violators of the indefinite strike would be sanctioned in accordance with the Constitution. There was a rowdy session involving the protesting members of, we are coming to Akwa Ibom now, there was a rowdy session involving the protesting members of the Akwa Ibom State Chapter of the NLC and the officials of the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, PHEDC, at the IBB Way office, Uyo, yesterday, as the picketing members of the organized labor tried to enforce the strike. However, the mild drama ended when the NLC enforcement team succeeded in forcing out the workers, locked the premises, leaving the stranded ad hoc staff and agents milling outside the gate and still attending to customers coming to pay their bills. Now, apart from the few banks that offered skeletal services along a back road, public schools, including tertiary institutions, airports, civil services, and other public institutions were all shut by the rampaging NLC protesters, who also barricaded and shut out civil servants at the Ndogesinka Secretariat. You could remember, as at yesterday morning, we also spoke to the NLC president of the Akwa Ibom chapter, and he said he was on his way to ensure that everybody complies as much as possible with the directives of the strike. That those were feedbacks that there was heavy compliance, especially in Akwa Ibom State. And now, it is on record now by this activity that Ajero now has held 2 national strikes and 2 warning strikes within the space of 9 months. Now, recall that year 2023 again witnessed a dawn of a new beginning in Nigeria's labor movement when Comrade Ayuba Waba, that's the immediate past NLC president, the then national president of National Labour Congress, who served 2 terms between 2015 and 2023, transited power to Comrade Joe Ajero, the new NLC president. Now, Ajero, who took over the leadership of the Pascal Bafiawu Labour House in February 8, 2023, made it clear in his inaugural speech that NLC, under his administration, shall continue in its tradition of ensuring that Nigerians are protected from all anti-people policies. Now, there's no doubt that the NLC president inherited numerous labor government crises that even predated his tenure. However, he was about to be tested as he came into office when the Central Bank of Nigeria Naira redesign policy and fuel scarcity were biting Nigerian workers so hard. But in total, Nigeria has succeeded in holding 2 national strikes and 2 warning strikes, including the current one, which started in November 14th, which is a few days ago. We could even say maybe yesterday. NLC and TUC began the nationwide strike over the battering of Ajero and other labor leaders by suspected agents of the state and security operatives in Imo State. Now, the strike came after the federal government failed to address the 6-point demands in the aftermath of the brutalization of Ajero in Imo State. The strike also began despite a court order restraining labor from embarking on any form of strike. Now, recall that in June 2023, the NLC had raised concern over frequent issuance of ex parte injunctions to restrain it from lawfully protesting against negative policies of government. Ajero, who described the order as a weapon against the interest of Nigerian workers, explained that such order remains contrary to the workers' rights as contained in the provisions of the International Labour Organization Conventions, the Trade Union Act, the Trade Dispute Act, the 1999 Constitution, as well as the African Charter on Human Rights and other legal instruments. Now, they too shows clearly that the strike actions are a serious thing that the NLC and the TUC means, because if you go round majority of the state capitals, you will feel the effects of the NLC strike. All right, we'll go on a short break now. Thereafter, we will introduce our guest. We're basically going to be talking about the strike actions. Is it necessary? Is Ajero doing the right thing this time? Is the strike action basically for the rights of the average worker or the average labor person in Nigeria? All those we are going to be x-raying when we get back. So stay tuned. Join us again.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch SpectrumTv on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733 Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story. One truth.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
To Union Congress, members of both centers here present, and gentlemen of the press. If you could recall, a while ago, we gave some conditions that we want the government to meet regarding the brutalization of the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. So we set forth some conditions, and those conditions, they were very, very clear, without ambiguity whatsoever. We said those people that brutalize our president, they must be arrested and they must be persecuted. We also stated as well that the area commander that led the police to carry out the brutalization should be relieved of his duty and he should be persecuted. Then Chinasa, who everybody knew that led the talks, should also be arrested and persecuted. So we went on and on and on. I think the gentleman of the press, you have the list of our demands. We gave an ultimatum that initially expired Wednesday last week. But in the eve of that expiration, we had the joint section of the NLC and the TUC. We looked at it, we felt as a responsible institution that we should give additional 1 week. Let's see if the government will be responsive. In order to further draw the attention of government, we had a picketing section last week, Thursday. But instead of government to come out strongly to condemn this criminality, instead of government to speak and stand on the side of justice and on the side of truth, some people in government They were running their mouth and making all kind of statements. So the two Labour Center has resolved to stand firmly by the decision of the joint NEC that was held last week, Tuesday, that effective 001 hours on the 14th of November, we shall declare a nationwide strike. So effective tomorrow or midnight today, a nationwide strike is going to commence. All affiliates of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, all affiliates of Nigeria Labour Congress, all state councils of the two centers have been mobilized adequately. And this is going to be indefinite until government at all levels wake up to their responsibility. This is the decision of the joint NEC of NLC and TUC, and we are going to carry it out to the latter. Solidarity
Forever.
There is victory for all.
All right, welcome back. We just played back the video of the TUC president when they made very, very strong statements, categorical statements about going on with the strike. Now, the strike has started. The presidents of each of the chapters, as well as the affiliate unions, have come out from different regions of Nigeria to ensure compliance. And of course, you will feel the economic implications of a nationwide industrial action. We have joining us this morning Comrade Victor Ojei, who is a senior special assistant to the executive governor of Delta State on civil society affairs. Mr. Victor Ojei, good morning to you. Welcome on the show. Good morning, Mr. Victor.
I can't hear you.
All right. Okay, you should be able to hear me very well, but because I can hear you very clearly. Check your headset or your earpiece and see whether you can, I don't know, but I can hear you clearly.
Okay, maybe I should look for, let me get the headset. Let me get the headset.
Okay, so while you do that, we have updated you that this is the day 2 of the planned industrial action that has become, they call it an indefinite industrial action. And what they expect is, one, Imo State government to call a meeting and try to, meet up some of their demands. And they also expect a delegation from the federal government to also have a sit down with the labor unions. But a lot of people have asked very salient questions. The questions are, is this particular strike action aimed at alleviating the discomforts and the challenges the average Nigerian labor worker is facing, or is this a strike action that has an undertone of a vested interest? A lot of politicians have come to say that it may also have a political undertone. People have accused Mr. Joe Ajero of following up all these activities based on the fact that he had someone in mind that he was supporting for the Imo elections. Eventually, the results have been read out, and I think the person came a distant third or thereabout, Mr. Achonu, Senator Achonu. who also contested on the platform of the Labour Party. And then the questions now arise. Should the Labour Union be directly involved in partisan politics? If we now have our Labour unions directly involved in partisan politics, what will it portend? No doubt we know that the Labour Union and Labour movement were instrumental at instituting the Labour Party. All right, Mr. Victor, you're welcome. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can hear you loud.
All right, welcome on the show. I understand you are joining us from the city, the oil city of Warri. How is Warri this morning?
Warri is peaceful. It's raining.
Okay. Yes, we know that the rainy seasons will soon get to an end. Before we go into the nitty-gritties, I'd like to ask you, how is Delta State in general? The strike action is across Nigeria. Do you have activities, or we have offices closed and people are in compliance with the indefinite strike action? What's your own observation in Delta?
There's compliance. There's compliance for the NLC and TUC strike.
Okay.
Delta State is compliant to the national call for the strike action.
So that means in Delta you have some
organized labor.
So that means in Delta you have some banks shut down, some institutions of government shut down, a massive blackout in some areas and all that.
Everything.
Can you confirm that?
There is total compliance.
Okay. So let us now go into the nitty-gritty of the strike action. From the general overview, how do you see this particular strike action? Of course, every strike action has its own objectives. We know what the objective of this one is. How do you see this strike action, in your own opinion?
This strike action is a strike action for personal interest. It's not for national interest. It's so obvious because of the timing, because of the reason that led to the strike action. Because the organized labor claimed that their national president was assaulted at Owerri while he went to advocate for the workers' rights. But there we go. The current governor of Imo State that just won his second term, Governor Hope Uzodinma, from history, he's the first governor to implement usage of Oracle database and software to analyze the payroll of the civil servants. And he discovered that some workers, government workers, were receiving 3 salaries, some 2 salaries, some 4. All the fraud that was going on in the government and payroll, he stopped it. He has good relationship with the state NLC chairman. He renovated the civil servant complex. He has done a lot, even in infrastructures. The man is doing well, but despite the insecurity that is challenging, that he has been facing, So far so good. I'm not a member of APC, but to an extent, the governor has done so well for his people in Imo State. So there was an allegation that the NLC president, in person of Ajeru, he went there to mobilize for NLC for a protest for workers' rights. But then there you go, an allegation that came that he actually went there for his political interest because he is a member of Labour Party and he has never denied it. He's always so bold to say it, that he's a member of Labour Party, which automatically makes it so clear that he went there for his political interests, not for the national interest. Because prior to now, diesel is now 1,200. You didn't call for any strike. Petrol is now selling at 670, 650 naira. You didn't call for strike. There are a lot of challenges that the Nigerian workers face. You didn't call for strike. So why now? At a very delicate and sensitive time. So it was uncalled for. Because, and look, what the civil society and the NGOs are even speculating, they are saying that the TUC and NLC, they just want their Christmas money. They just want to advocate for their own selfish interest. Because An average Labour chairman or president is an automatic billionaire. There is no Labour Party, national NLC or TUC president that is hungry after he leaves the position. They are all automatic billionaires. So Nigerians are tired of NLC and TUC because you cannot keep making use of the same pattern and getting the same results over and over again. They need to up their game. You don't achieve what you want by strike action. You should let us ask TUC and NLC, what have they contributed to NGOs and CSO advocacy for policy reform? How many radio programs, how many state NLC chairmen can boast that they are funding radio programs for workers' rights advocacy, for labor rights? Even those that are not members of NLC or TUC, like the hotel tourism staffs, how many programs have they funded that will advocate for these workers when their rights are violated? How many workers even know their rights? How many pamphlets, how many public awareness programs has TUC and NLC engaged the Nigerian workers on? In other climes, when you pay your tax, there's what we call tax refund. These are funds that the federal and state government in these climes did not make use of, but you paid the money. So there will be a refund at some point annually. How many times has NLC and TUC refunded funds that were not used to these Nigerian workers? Possibly for them to contribute towards purchase of land for their cooperative or towards building of their houses, so that when they retire, they can have a place that they can fall back to. What have they contributed? How many enlightenment program on diversification of our national the working strength, employment strength has the NLC and TUC?
Can you hear me, comrade?
They have not done anything. How many programs have they funded NGOs and CSOs to go to understudy? Why can't they fund NGOs and CSOs to go travel out or engage with international NGOs on how they got it right at other clients with respect to labor rights?
Okay, your argument.
How many traditional
okay, if you can hear me, comrade, if you can hear me,
we should hold everybody accountable. In as much as we want to hold the federal and state government accountable,
can you hear me?
We should also hold NLC and TUC accountable. There is 30,000 naira minimum wage. What has the NLC chairman done to ensure that every state chairman engages with the state governors to ensure that every state pays their workers 30,000 naira minimum wage?
Okay, can you hear me now?
What they are doing now is for their own political, selfish interests, not for the Nigerian interest. Because you have a hardship. The economy is hard. People are suffering. There is hunger. And there you go, calling for a strike, a national shutdown, an economic shutdown that you know will affect the common man.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me, comrade?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. You have made some allegations. Of course, you are not the first. A lot of people have said it, that most times those positions, NLC, TUC, presidency at national level, is always used to amass some kind of wealth. You are not the first person saying it, but let's be fair to this gentleman. We've had 2 strikes and 2 protests, or warning strike as it were, within 9 months. Recall that even in the beginning of this year, Ayuba Waba was still the NLC president, and you followed the ordeals, you followed the activities of Ayuba Waba, even in Kaduna when El Rufai was trying to lay off some people or disqualify some people who have been working for decades, and the arguments back and forth. Now, this administration has come. This administration didn't come on a simple platform. It started by removing subsidy, and we all see the impacts of subsidy. So far, so good. Within 9 months, Ajero has made, his stand very, very clear that anti-poor people policies must be removed from the federal government's palliative policies that he rolled out. And he has not only said it, he has gone ahead, to prove it by going on the very, 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 very first industrial action. Now, the issue we have now is this particular action, the objective. And now people are blaming him and saying all sorts of things. But I'd like to ask a very, very simple question. You are still a member of civil society, but right now you are working with politicians and you're working for a government. Joe Ajero being a member of the Labour Party, is it an illegality?
No, I stand for the truth.
Is it an illegality that the national president of the NLC is a member of the Labour Party? Is it an illegality?
No,
is it
right.
unconstitutional?
It's your right to. It's not an illegality for you to belong to a political interest. But when you now start making it an issue that, look, when you are, like, I'm a member of PDP. I'm the PRO for Human Rights Coalition in Delta State. But then when I'm advocating, I don't bring in political sentiment into my advocacies. The way, the direction Ajero is going, it was so obvious that it was for his political interest. Talk is cheap. Talk, they say, is very cheap. Ajero, the way he's going, he's losing it. His regime is losing it. In fact, he's not getting it right for the Nigerian workers. What he's doing now, look, we condemn the attack on him, yes. But do you have to go far to cause pain to more than 200 million Nigerians, all because you want to make a point? You don't need to go for a strike, and you know strike has never worked. Ajero, he was supposed to, okay, now you traveled down to Imo State. Even the governor of Imo State was not even aware that he came. There was no formal letter. Now, there's already a court injunction that they should not embark on strike. How can you, claiming that you want to advocate for the rights of Nigerians, you now disobey the law? There was a time when Nigerian Bar Association in history, during the regime of Babangida, they went on strike. The Babangida military junta went to get a court order that the NBA cannot go on strike, the Bar Association. What did the president of NBA do? He summoned the NBA members and told them that they have to cancel their strike because they must obey court order. And the NBA obeyed the court order because they know the repercussion if you don't obey court order. If there is contempt of court, the NBA knows. And I will even advise the federal government to start the process for contempt of court so that the leadership of NLC and TUC, they should be detained. They should be held accountable for their actions.
Comrade
because Nigerian
Victor,
people are tired of them.
Comrade
they are not
Victor.
leading well. This is not how to lead.
Okay, Comrade Victor,
I'm all ears.
I know that you are concerned about the average Nigerian, but someone else, an immediate past Secretary General of some labor union, also said that in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is enshrined that there must be freedom of association, there must be human rights, and there must be freedom to protest. It's a constitutional right. And the person is arguing, which is the same premise with which the NLC-TUC is standing upon, that they have a right to protest. And that is a supreme, it's more supreme, you know, than any other law or court injunction that may have arisen. That the fact that federal government goes to court to seek an injunction to restrain them from protesting is in its own an illegality. But let us look at it this way. If you are a member of civil society, if you are advocating or you are protesting against something, and you know that the principle that you are protesting against now runs to court to get an injunction, and you know that the matter is going to be an issue that will affect the people you are fighting for, what will be your position at that point? I want you to answer that question now without recourse for Ajero's actions or whatever. Let us just look at it. Court injunctions against the International Labour Act, against the Constitution of the Federal Republic that says people have a right to protest.
Look, the law is the law. We must obey the law.
What is the law?
Son. The court is the
a court
place for the rich and the poor.
a law?
Look, listen. The law is the law. We must obey the law. Come rain, come sun. We must not put our personal and selfish interests before the law. It's just like the case of Peter Obi that lost election. It was still the same Supreme Court that you are condemning that made you a governor of Anambra State. Dr. Ngige never complained. He obeyed the court order. Why is it that the same Supreme Court now declined your interest? Why not accept it as in good faith and be a sportsman? Sportsmanship spirit. You congratulate whoever the court pronounced or announced as the winner, and you should even give up a hand of good faith by advocating, by communicating with the winner that if he needs your advice or your contribution towards the national interest, that you will be there to contribute to the national interest. You want a better Nigeria, yes. You could not get it right. Why not work alongside with whoever that is there? Ajero, look, you go to court, you must not win your court cases. Most times when we go to court as human rights or rights advocates, we don't go that we must win our case. Most times we lose our cases in court. Our joy is that we've made a statement. You have made a statement. You don't need to go on strike just to prove superiority with the federal government at the expense of the Nigerian people. You already know that these politicians, they can be very adamant. But I have never seen any part of the world where you use wrong to correct wrong. Since you know that these politicians are bullies and you know that they are not getting it right, why not be a better person? Why not make the difference? Even when you know that they went to court to get an injunction, why not go to the court to ensure that you see to the end of it? Why not go to the court and convince the judge why Nigerian people must embark on the strike action? You must obey the court no matter what, whether it favors you or it does not favor you. Did President Trump not go to court that Joe Biden did not win the election, the last election? Did he win? He was the sitting president. He lost.
No, but that is not.
Go.
That is not.
Joe Biden is the president of America today.
No, but that is not
Trump
a good
has
example.
An opportunity. He's contesting
Comrade,
now.
but that is not a good
so
example.
You don't correct a wrong with another wrong.
It is not a
no
good.
Matter what.
Trump's example is not a good example because up until tomorrow, Trump still says anytime he has an opportunity that Biden didn't win the election. That means he has not accepted. So that's not exactly.
But is President Trump?
No, but hang on.
Trump the current president?
I'm coming somewhere.
Is Joe
you
Biden
cannot take
president?
it by force.
Did Trump not go to court to remove Joe Biden, to annul the election of Joe Biden?
No. Nobody has done that. Even Peter Obi has not done that.
He's there. Joe Biden is still there, the president.
Nobody has done that. Trump can't do that. Joe Biden is president. As we speak now, even Dino Melaye is being accused of doing media trials, going around all media stations and condemning the elections and bringing out all the things he's supposed to have gathered and taken to court. So people complain, people protest. It's still part of the protest. But let us not lose focus of the issues we are discussing. We are still on the implications of the NLC strike. Now let us even look at the other demands that NLC is making. They say in Imo State, some people were disqualified under the name of ghost workers. Some people are being owed multiple months of salaries that are under, presumed to be under the labor unions. Working conditions are not exactly good in Imo. A lot of demands have been made. And then the NLC is also saying, as the chief executive officer of Imo State, Uzodinma should bring out those people they say came to beat up their president and prosecute them. We've not heard anything about those things. Are you saying that those other demands are not valid demands? Let's talk about the demands first. Let's talk about the demands first. Are you saying those demands are not valid demands?
Look, according to allegations, because it's not yet say, it was the same people that Ajero came with that beat him up. Because he claimed that, according to them, that he went there to protest, to advocate for workers' rights. Now, on getting there, they discovered that they actually came for campaign of Labour Party for the gubernatorial election, the just concluded election that Labour Party lost.
Not exactly a fact because we confirmed that Joe Ajero was beaten up in the premises of the NLC. We confirmed that Joe Ajero was beaten up in the premises of the NLC. The NLC premises could not have been used for political activities. It was within the premises of the NLC that they said the hillocks and the vehicles that came to manhandle him. It was not on the streets. And that was confirmed.
It was the same workers that he invited on the streets for protests against the current government. that beat him up because they discovered that he came to use them for political campaign, not for their interest that he claimed he was advocating for.
Okay.
Besides, the Imo State NSC chairman has good relationship with the current governor of Imo State.
But we've not had any statement from him, have we?
Workers. Look,
Comrade, the NLC chairman in Imo has not made any official statement yet. So it is also a rumor or hearsay for us to assume that the NLC president of Imo State chapter has good working relationship with the governor. Because if you say that what the NLC at the national level is saying are hearsays and rumor, then we should also be able to put this in the same position. Because since the allegation, the NLC president has not said anything. And strike actions were observed in Imo, at least by the sources from some of our correspondents. It may not be 100% compliance, but in Imo, there were strike actions, which means that the NLC chapter in Imo is in perfect unilateral with the national body. So does that not conflict with what the governor said?
It doesn't conflict. Do you know why? Because you journalists, you have a duty of care to go and investigate. Go and confront the NLC state chairman of Imo State. You have to do that. Let him speak. Let from the horse's mouth. The governor already made it very clear that he has good relationship with the NLC leadership and body in Imo State.
So the governor's statement is a fact,
came there
but Joe Ajero's statement is not a fact.
Ajero is from Imo State, Owerri. He came for a political rally.
That's what I'm saying. Are you saying the governor's statement is a fact, but the NLC president's statement is not a fact? Is that not being unfair?
Look, it's so obvious. Even a brainless fowl knows that Mr. Ajero went there for the interest of the Labour Party, not for the interest of Nigerian people or the Imo State workers. If he has a good case, if he claims that he went there for worker salary, why didn't he go to court when you know that? And look, he has not presented any case before the Imo State governor for his claims that some worker salary was not paid, some benefit and arrears were not paid. Let him bring the petition that he sent to the Imo State governor. He should bring it up.
Okay, comrade.
Look, strike action is never a solution. If you know that you have evidence to your claims, why not go to industrial court? Why not file a suit against the Imo State government? You get your judgment. You compare the Attorney General of Imo State to ensure that the judgment is implemented. Why didn't you follow the rule of law?
To add to the arguments, comrade, the NLC-TUC joint session have released countless communiques stating their demands. They have released documents showing that they have petitioned and that, according to them, Governor Hope Uzodinma cannot feign ignorance of all the things on ground. Now, were there issues before Uzodinma came in as a governor? Yes, there were issues. Were there issues before Joe Ajero this year became NLC president? Yes, there were issues. And we all know that governance is a continuum. So the fact that the governor, according to NLC-TUC, the fact that the governor is claiming that there are some issues he is not aware about, the NLC-TUC is saying that the governor is not being sincere. But here you are now, backing the governor's statement, but not giving any opportunity for the trade union and the NLC to even air out their views. Now, even if he went there for political issues, let's assume, because we're not confirming anything here, even if Joe Ajero went there for political issues, is it right for an NLC president to be beaten up? Then ever since he has been beaten up, what has been the reaction of the chief executive officer of Imo State, the governor, in trying to bring the perpetrators into book? Because what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. Comrade.
Look, when you pray for rain to fall, you should be ready to deal with the mud. That is life. That is life. Ajero knows that there is insecurity in Imo State. He knows the terrain he went to. He knows that it's an election year for Imo State. He knows that what he went there for was a wrong time. There is time for everything. A time to be born, a time to die. A time for peace, a time for war. Ajero knows what he's doing. He's going there for the interest of the Labour Party. And he went there on it is a failed venture. There are a lot of issues. TUC and NLC, look, what they are looking for is Christmas money. I will say it over and over again. Whenever they just see an opportunity or privilege, they will just remember that there's an agreement that the state government or federal government has not met up with. They will just raise up the Nigerians now know their tactics. We know, everybody knows. Nobody will take advantage of CSO or NGOs to exploit us. Look, in this country, we have great men of God. In this country, we have criminals that are parading themselves as men of God. We have wolves in sheep's clothing. We have good politicians, we have bad politicians. We have good journalists, we have corrupt journalists. Look, this world is made of good and bad. Every sector has good and bad. The youth have good and bad. They are used and into drug in Nigeria. They are used and not into drug. This regime of Ajero, that's Mr. Ajero, is a sham. Look, Nigerians are fed up. We are not interested. People are not even happy, carried away by their strike action, because what they are succeeding to do is just to increase the hardship of the Nigerian people. If Joe Ajero knows that they beat him up or they assaulted him, why can't he go to court for redress, for compensation? Why can't he work with the police to figure out those that assaulted him and sue them to court for compensation? Must 230 million Nigerians suffer because they assaulted you? Does it make sense? Because of they assaulted you, Nigerian people should suffer.
Okay. So the NLC,
it doesn't make sense.
The NLC and the TUC are also saying that his being beaten up is connected with the governor of Imo State. And they are asking that the governor of Imo State do something about it. Is that too much to ask?
It's too much to ask.
Why do you say so?
Where is Naira Marley? Where is Sam Larry? They were accused that they killed Mohbad. Look, the court is there. Go to court with your evidence. If you cannot convince the judge that they had hand in the killing of Mohbad, they are free to go. They have bailed them. If he feels that the governor has hand, he should sue the governor to court, present his evidence, and the judge will decide his fate. He should go to court and convince the court with evidence that the governor has hand or the Imo State government has hand in his assault. After all, while he was coming to Imo State, did he give notice to the Imo State government? Did he write any personal letter to
is he supposed to give a
personal
letter to the Imo State government?
Uzodinma was not even in Imo State on the day that Ajero was assaulted.
Was he supposed to communicate with the governor before entering the state?
Look, it's a good one. He is the chairman, the president of NLC in Nigeria. He is a national interest. You get me? He has a duty of care to notify the governor that he is coming. He said, look, it's very civil when you do that because of, Imo State is Southeast has insecurity. He has the duty of care to send a letter to the Nigerian police, to the governor, to all stakeholders that the national president of NLC is coming to Imo State. And he will be received. That is how it is done. That is how it is done. If our president, Tinubu, is going to the United States, he is going to notify Joe Biden. He is going to notify the security apparatus of United States. That is how it's done for his own interest, so that they will provide security and clearance for him.
Okay.
It is the right thing to do.
Okay, let's stay away from the NLC and TUC now as we begin to wrap up. We just have a few minutes to finish this conversation. Now the NLC and TUC have gone on strike. And unfortunately for Nigerians, it is indefinite. What do you think should be the role of the two people that the accusing fingers are being pointed on, the federal government and the Imo State government? At this point, the buck stops at their table because the governor is leading the Imo region, the federal government, the president is leading the whole of Nigeria. What should be their responsibility? We've talked enough about NLC, TUC. This is where we are now. Strike, day 2. Banks are not working. Some parts of the power authorities are not working. A lot of institutions and parastatals of governments are not currently
the power
in the office.
authority is working.
What
the power authority has made it clear that they are not on strike. They are still at work.
Okay, fine. So, but what
because
should
most
be
Nigerians don't agree with
so
the
what
NLC and
should
TUC.
be,
This is a personal vendetta
Comrade
strike.
Victor, what should be the response of the federal government and the state government of Imo State?
Look,
just advise. You are a special advisor to the governor. What should you advise?
The federal government has done well. They have played their part. Federal government has gone to court to get an injunction against this strike because it's uncalled for. Imo State governor has apologized on the national TV, on Channels TV. He has apologized because Ajero is a citizen of Nigeria. He's not just a citizen, he's the president of NLC. And he doesn't deserve what happened to him. From any human being,
but you just said,
federal, state, you just
said anybody who's praying for rain should be ready for the mud. That's what you said.
Yes.
Because there is nothing that justifies a citizen of a country to be beaten up. There's nothing that justifies it, especially when the person is not a criminal.
Look.
I'm with you.
In the system, in the criminal justice system, we have what we call alternative dispute resolution.
That's correct.
Even when you steal money, when you are corrupt, we have the plea bargain globally. Even when somebody even die, they settle the case. I work closely with the police. I work closely with state CIDs on cases, various cases. You know, as a CSO stakeholder in Delta State, there are cases when people die. We still resolve it.
Okay, so how does it apply to this argument?
It applies because why? The governor of Imo State has apologized.
And
on
that's
the national TV.
The governor of Imo State has apologized, and that's
it. So Opus Odima, he has apologized. Do you know what it takes for a governor on the national TV to apologize? Do you know what it takes for most men, a man that has achieved that state, that level, to say I'm sorry on the national TV?
Comrade, let's dialogue constructively. So should Opus Odima, should he not go further to prove that he's genuinely sorry? Should he not go further to fish out those indigenes of Imo and prosecute them or investigate them as to
the duty of the police.
Why should he not use
of the police?
Yes, should he not use the instrumentalities of the police to do that?
It is not the duty of Opus Odima. Yes, he's the CSO.
But he is the chief security officer of the state.
And he has already apologized. He has called the commissioner of police to investigate. What the NSC ought to do is to follow up with the investigation, partner with the police, and see to the end that those who assaulted him are brought to book, as against bringing Nigerians to hardship, to suffering, to hunger, to starvation, to pain, to depression, because of your selfish interest, as against national interest. People are suffering. The economy is bad. Even in Canada, economy is bad. In UK, economy is bad. People are now running away from Canada because Canada is now too expensive to live in. It's a global issue. The Russia-Ukraine war is affecting the world. The Israel-Gaza war is now affecting the world. The Middle East is now becoming unstable. Look, we need love as against war. Love, peace is cheap. War is expensive. Strike is expensive. We are losing billions on a daily basis in Nigeria. So we should think of the greater good. It's not worth it. Even if the NLC, TUC, or anybody was assaulted, you now want to shut down the whole country economy. It's not worth it.
Okay, comrade. All right. So one final question before we go. This whole imbroglio, how do you see it ending?
It's dialogue.
How do you see it ending? Dialogue between who and who? I want you to be specific. How do you see this ending?
All parties, all stakeholders, dialogue. And Opus Odima has started well. He has apologized. President Tinubu is a man that is filled with wisdom. If you know the history of Tinubu, you know that he's an achiever. He did a lot for democracy. He paid a lot of price for where we are today in Nigeria, for us to be democratic. He took a lot of risk, spent a lot of money, and today he's the president of Nigeria. So what we should do as Nigerians, we know that things are not going on, we are not getting it right, we should think of solutions to support the president for his regime to become a successful regime, because he cannot do it alone. He also needs us to encourage him, because it's not good anywhere. Even in America, they are complaining. Canada, they are complaining. It's a global issue. Corruption is a global issue. That is why we have to come together, to put hands together, to see how we can move Nigeria forward. As against criticizing Nigeria, I think Nigeria is the worst country in the world. Corruption is everywhere. Nigerians should wake up. Who killed George Floyd in America? Was it the Nigerian police? No, it was American police. There are a lot of racism going on in Germany, going on in US and other parts of Europe. Okay, look, even in Nigeria, we have our tribalism. So what I'm saying is, we should think of how we can contribute towards a better country, towards a better Nigeria. That is it. Corruption is everywhere. Nowhere is good. There is no heaven on earth. So that is it. All right. So I take that last part where you say all the stakeholders should dialogue, because in the end, it is the average Nigerian citizen that suffers from the inconveniences of strike, especially when we already have a lot of other challenges of the economy. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Victor Ojei, Senior Special Assistant to Governor Ovoribori, Delta State Governor, on NGOs and civil society organization affairs. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we have it. The conversation still continues. We hope that any time from now, the authorities would call NLC and TUC to a roundtable to have a very, very good conversation in the interest of the average Nigerian citizen. Because they say when two elephants fight, it is the grass that bears the brunt. Remember that the conversation of nation building and deepening democracy does not end, is never exhausted. We have to continue to speak for and against. We have to speak back and forth. Remember